Hey, how's it going, guys? Today I'm going to show you exactly how to fillet a beautiful king salmon. Now, king salmon are one of the most prized fish out there, and you want to make sure that number one, you get the most meat off the fish possible, and number two, you want to make sure that you have a nice, clean, presentable fillet at the end of the process. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. There are also some key differences between filleting a large, softer fleshed fish like a big salmon versus filleting a smaller, more firm fleshed fish. And I'm going to go over the details of that as well as we go through this process. And I'm going to show you two different methods that you can use to take a fillet off a salmon, and you can decide which one you want to use. Now, before we get started on actually filleting this fish, I wanted to mention you might need a couple bigger knives than you're used to for a fish this size. I recommend having a set of knives, an 8-inch knife and an 11-inch knife. These are the Rapala Stealth FXF series. I've got them sharpened to razor sharpness, and these are going to really make a big difference when it comes to filleting a bigger fish like this. So I'll leave a link down below for these knives if you want something reliable that's going to do the job well. With that, let's get started on filleting this awesome fish. All right, guys, method number one here is going to be basically as if you just caught the fish and the entrails are still in the fish, which they are on this one. Oftentimes on a fishing trip, you're going to catch a fish, it's just going in the cooler, still has the guts in it when you get to filleting it. And this method is perfect for keeping the fillet really clean and also having access to the eggs if you want to take those for spawn for fishing with later. So we're going to start with that. And one thing I like to do here for the first step on any salmon, whether the entrails are removed or not, is I like to remove the fins, a couple of the fins here. It just makes the fillet look much nicer in the end. So the first one we're going to remove is the dorsal fin. We're just going to take our knife and just start at the top of that fin and just cut through just like that. And that's just going to remove that, get it out of the way for our fillet process. Now we're going to do the same thing with this anal fin here and just take it right off the fish, just like so. And that's just going to get that out of the way again. And the same with these fins here. Now these fins are a little bit different. You have a little chunk of cartilage and bone here, and you kind of have to go under and down and up again to get these ones out. So just start under that and then slide it right back up and out like so. So there we go. Now the fins are removed and we've got a much cleaner fillet that we're going to have at the end of this, and it's just going to be easier to work around on that fish. All right, now that we have the fins removed, we're going to make our initial cut on this fish. And I really like to use my 8-inch knife for this. You can use the 11, but the 8-inch is just a little more maneuverable, as well as for taking off the fins. But we're going to start right down here. We're going to grab the pectoral fin here, and we're going to make a cut slightly angled forward. And you see how my knife is angled like this? That's going to help us get the most meat possible from out from under this collarbone. We're just going to follow this collarbone up into the head here as far as we can without hitting bone and angling forward. And we're going to try and get as much meat as possible from that fish. Now here's where a lot of fillet videos show you a method where you just run your blade down and take the whole fillet off the fish, including the ribs. But if the guts are in the fish, that's going to cut through the guts. If there's eggs in the fish, it's going to ruin the eggs. So in this method, I'm going to stick with the 8-inch knife, and I'm only going to cut down to the ribs. So we're going to start right here at the head. We're going to slide our knife down to the backbone, turn the knife, and stay just above these bones coming off the spine. All right, and we're going to only cut in about 1 inch to 2 inches, and we're just going to follow those bones all the way down the fish. There's just some bones sticking off the spine here that we're trying to stay on top of. And when we get to the vent, which was right where that fin started, we can actually poke through and slide our knife all the way down the backbone and through the tail. Now we're going to come back here where we made that initial cut, and we're just going to turn our knife around and again slide right over those bones, moving the knife forward and keeping it as low as possible. And on a soft flesh fish like this, we don't want to do a lot of pulling. We want to basically keep that knife doing all the work. Now you're going to hear, when you get to the ribs, you're going to hear some ticking. Hear that? Those are the ribs. We're going to try and bring our knife up and over those ribs, not through them. Now you're gonna hear your knife cutting through some very small bones. Those are the pin bones. Don't worry about those bones. You're gonna remove those here when we're done getting this fillet off the fish. And again, we're trying not to pull too much with our hand. You can pull a little bit, but with the salmon, it's easy to kind of pull that meat away from the flesh and tear it. So we really don't want to put a lot of pressure on it. Now we're just following those ribs down, just like so. And then once you get to right about here, the ribs end, you can just follow that fillet down and then just make a nice even cut at the belly meat. And remove that fillet from the fish. All right guys, so there is slab number one, and I'm gonna show you how to skin this and remove the pin bones right here as well before we move on to method number two. But first I want to show you why I like this method for guts in. If you just put your knife down and run it straight across, you run the risk of ruining the eggs. This one's a male, obviously, so there's no eggs in this fish. But if there was, we could easily remove these without worry about the skeins being sliced through. And also, we're not going to slice through any guts by cutting through those ribs either. So it works pretty well for that. And we'll show you the other method here in a second. Now, depending on what we want to do with this fish, we can either skin it or leave the skin on. And a lot of people like to leave skin on for salmon because they use it for smoking and other methods. But sometimes I like to bake salmon with the skin off, and that's what I'm gonna do with this side of the fish. Now this is where that 11-inch knife comes in really, really handy, because having that extra blade length as you come along here and remove the skin is super key. Now I like to move that fillet close to the edge of the table here. And then I'm just gonna start right at the tail, cut down and leave myself a little bit of a handhold there. And I'm just gonna start making sweeps along the skin until I can get a hold of the skin. And then basically I'm just gonna pull that, get a good grip on that skin, and literally just angle my knife slightly and pull all the way through like so. Super easy. Skin comes right off. No meat on the skin whatsoever. Nice clean backside to it. Beautiful. So I'm going to show you the easiest method on this fillet to take out these pin bones that run from right here to about here. You can feel them with your finger, and they run at an angle kind of down to the actual back of the fillet. Now I'm going to show you the easiest way to do it right now with the knife, but I'm going to show you a much cleaner, even better way to do it on the next fillet. It's going to be even more presentable. So what we're going to do is we're going to find that row of bones with our finger, and we're going to start on the dorsal side of it with the knife, just slicing down alongside those bones. And what you want is you want your knife to find those bones right here. You can kind of see them there. And you just want your knife to just slice down through and follow that set of bones all the way through the fillet. And they do kind of swing this way towards the back once you get down there. So you got to kind of angle your knife forward a little bit. Just like that. And again, they end right about here. You can feel the last one. So now this is completely bone free. You can still see that row of bones right here. We're going to go on the other side of it now and just follow them the exact same way, just the opposite direction, following them to the back of the fish. And right here we're going to slice them out just like that. Now that's all the pin bones right in that little piece. And if you're making fish stock or something, you can certainly boil that and get some fish stock out of that piece, as well as the carcass. But so now this whole fillet is bone free. Again, this method isn't the cleanest looking. So if you want a nice clean presentation, probably not the best, but if you want a quick way to fillet a fish that's got the guts in it and you want the eggs, this works pretty well. Now that said, we can clean it up a little bit. You know, we can kind of trim the belly, clean that. Any of those little imperfections, we can just trim off a little bit. You know, if you got a few little flaky pieces, just kind of lightly scrape your blade over them, trim them off. If you've got a little bit of extra fat at the top, sometimes that sticks with it, you can trim that off, and you can make it very, very presentable. And now we have a whole entire king salmon fillet, completely bone free, no skin. You can cut that up into chunks, bake it. There's lots of different ways to cook this, but That's one of the ways to do it. Now let's get into method number 2. All right guys, now here is the method most people use on these salmon that are already gutted especially, and you can use it on a salmon with the entrails in it too, especially if you're not worried about hitting eggs. But this gets the nicest, cleanest looking fillet off the fish. So we're gonna make a very similar cut here, up behind the head, follow that bone, that cleithrum bone or that collarbone around, and make a nice U cut like so. Get the most meat we can off that fish. It's angling towards the head again. Now I'm going to pick up my 11-inch knife. This is where this knife really comes in handy. We're going to go down to the backbone. We're going to turn the knife, and we're just going to literally follow that backbone all the way down the fish, cutting right through the ribs. They're very soft ribs on a salmon, so really they cut quite easily compared to like a walleye or any other more freshwater, hard fleshed fish. They slice through like butter. And now we can remove that. And now this is done. We don't need this anymore, except I will show you how to take the collar off in a second here. Now you can see how much cleaner this method looks. It just, you don't have as many imperfections in the fillet. Again, that 11-inch knife is really, really nice for that part. Now we have to remove the ribs, obviously. That's the one thing left in here that we didn't have on the last fillet, and they are right in here, basically this section right here. So what we're gonna do is take this 8-inch knife, which is a little bit more maneuverable again. You can see the tops of the ribs here. We're just gonna follow those ribs. We're gonna make a cut all the way around, and then we're gonna basically tilt our knife up so it's touching those ribs as we kind of pull them away. We don't want to cut deep here, we just want to get the ribs out. So we're going to follow those down, and you can get very, very thin piece here without losing much meat at all if you're careful. You can do it faster than I'm doing it here, but you tend to lose a little bit more meat if you rush this part. And then once you get to the bottom of the ribs, you just slice them right out. And that is basically, I mean, almost paper thin. You see is right up to the bones here. And again, if you're making stock, you can boil that piece for stock. Now this belly piece, you know, depending on what you want to do, a lot of people smoke the belly. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually make a cut right here and trim that off. And then you can actually smoke this chunk. And it's got a lot of fat in it. It's very, very tasty on a lot of salmon. So you can smoke the salmon belly. So now what we're left with here is a beautiful, clean looking fillet. Very few imperfections. We already cut out the fins, so we don't have any fin bases on here. We trimmed the belly off nice. Now all we have left really, especially if we're gonna smoke this fish with the skin on, which I'm gonna do here, is to remove those pin bones. Now we can use the method we used before of cutting them out with the knife and cutting on both sides. And just getting down to the skin, and then you can just kind of run your finger through and peel those right out. But if we really want this to look presentable and have a little bit nicer look to it and not split the fillet, we can use fishbone tweezers. So it takes a little time, but man, you can end up with a really nice fillet. And basically you're just going to grab the end of each bone and literally pull them right out one by one. There's the pin bones, and just work your way down. Again, you can kind of feel the tip of each one. Now, one of the keys to this working is having a good pair of actual fishbone tweezers like these. I'll leave a link down below for these because these have been working really well for me. I've had them for a long time. Every time I do this, they work perfect. They have a little bit flatter surface that kind of curves in, designed just for this. If you try and use regular tweezers, this is not going to work well. And then as you come into the bone, you push down on the flesh and see how that bone kind of pops right out. Then you just twist it just a hair to get a good grip on it and just pull it straight out. So just push down on either side again of the bone. Pull, push down, pull, just like that. Piece of cake. And it really, again, makes for a nice clean fillet with no slice in it. All right, guys, I mentioned the salmon collars, and these actually have quite a bit of meat on them. You can smoke these and they're quite delicious, but really what y'all want to do is make sure that this throat latch is cut, which it already is on this fish when we bled it out. And you're just going to slice along the inside of the gills here. Slice up the collar, and then use the butt of your knife to just snip through and flip it over. Again, cut down along the inside of those gills there. Pop through right here. Now there's a little bit of a membrane in here I kind of like to separate, and that is the collar. And there's quite a bit of meat in these sections. And you can smoke that thing, just kind of crack it open and smoke it with the rest of your fish and peel that meat out. And it's a nice little extra chunk of meat kind of to go along with the belly to smoke. So there you have it, guys. That's how to fillet a king salmon. Now, this particular fish, you may have noticed the flesh is a little bit lighter than some of the other fish you may have seen. Now, that reason is twofold. Number one, regionally, certain lakes and regions have lighter colored flesh salmon in general. Now, this is a Lake Superior fish, which tends to be a lighter meat to begin with than, say, certainly an Alaskan fish or even a Lake Michigan fish. But on top of that, we are getting close to the spawning run here. This fish was still in the lake, but he is getting ready to run up the river and spawn. And the closer they get to that point, the lighter in color and kind of the softer that flesh becomes. So once they run up the river and spawn, they're gonna die, and that flesh is getting less and less desirable every single day. But this fish was still very edible, and it's the same fillet method regardless of what stage those fish are in. So just keep that in mind. And thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I've got tons more fillet videos out there and more coming. So if you like this video, make sure you sub so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you next time. Get hooked up.